All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm gonna let that. Yeah, well, Danny, I'm about a minute slow my own self, so here we go. Good morning. Okay, I want to start this morning off with something a little lighthearted and funny, because we're going to be talking about stuff that's a little bit more heady and dark. And I'm sorry, got no Cameron this morning, so might not be as funny as I'd like to be. The Fit Life with Danielle. So Danny's asking, morning, friends. Glad to see y'all safely broadcasting on YouTube. So here's the funnies. First, I got a message from Danny a little over an hour ago, saying that she was in a panic because she thought we had been and angry because she was afraid we had been banned from YouTube, and then realized she's in a different time zone than we are, and then she realized, oh, it's 6:30 there. They don't start for an hour. And she sent me a message to that effect, and I was touched and amused by it. Stryker's asking if he can phone in. I'll answer that question in just a second, my brother. Let me double check and see if I tell you what, give us a few minutes. Give us about probably 5 minutes or so before you try to phone in, and let me charge the phone line, because the backup phone line, I had my phone on this charger. I had my actual phone on the charger and wasn't paying attention to charge the line that actually receives the Google phone calls from you guys. So I tell you what, if you can hold it to the end of the show, last 10 minutes or so, I'll put the phone number up, and I could take a call real quick. But this morning I do have to stick to my half hour and hard stop at 8 o'clock. I've got a couple of appointments that I've got to get out the door for this morning. Anyway, so here's your other funny. I was filling out a medical questionnaire related to an appointment that I have upcoming, and one of the series of questions had to do with hygiene. And I mean, I'm good. I take a shower every day. I take care of myself, brush my teeth, floss, and all that stuff. You know, I even keep a pack of floss picks on my desk, and I'll sit here and floss my teeth between, while I'm reading something or whatever. But then I get to the question. One question is, how long has it been? How's it phrased? So, how long do you go between shaving without being reminded? And I looked at it like, and so I just answered the question, 10 years? I thought that was amusing, and I look forward to how the doctor responds to my answer on that question. I think it'll be entertaining. Now, in all fairness, I did shave everything but the mustache off once, God, it's been almost 3 years ago, for a surgery where they had to put me under. Sergeant Major asks, if I don't shave, am I canuts? Apparently, not shaving is a sign of who knows? It's certainly not a sign of early onset dementia, because Biden looks like he sits under a straight razor with a professional every morning. which I bet is hilarious. So let's get to the darker stuff. I see George Kelichek has joined us. He and I were texting just before the show. In fact, I started a minute late because I wasn't paying attention to the clock as I was writing a text message back to George. But I'm going to have lunch with George this morning, and that'll be excellent. Oh, not this morning, but anywho, we have an article. A couple of things happened over the last couple of days, and I think it's hard to know it's hard to say where to start. But I think I'm going to start with Sam Bankman-Fried, because I don't want to spend as much time on him and his scam this morning as some of the other information here. But a large part of what I'm going to be getting into as we move forward this morning is kind of the nature of speculation relating to conspiracy theories like the New World Order, the World Economic Forum, the Bilderberg Group, et cetera, and kind of how that has been affected by the development of technology, and especially communications technology. It's been interesting, but I want to start with this. So, disgraced FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried busted in Bahamas, charged with defrauding investors out of $1.8 billion. So, I'll say this first. There's some kind of commentary, speculation, and even annoyance over how long it has taken to arrest Sam Bankman-Fried for his obvious crimes. And when I say obvious crimes, he has personally described to press agents, to reporters, the nature of the activities and how it came to be that his exchange was not as liquid as it was required or advertised to be. And it had to do with a sister company run by his girlfriend, and he gave her a bunch of money. This isn't complicated, guys. That's a confession. He has described his particular activities, and they are by definition the activities of fraud, up to including the activities of theft by conversion, which is similar to the laws regarding selling a lemon, selling a car that is misrepresented for its quality at an unreasonable price, given the actual quality of the vehicle. But it is also the case that while people are criticizing the length of time that it took for him to be arrested, let's face it, in the world of high finance, especially in regard to activities between Democrat representatives and Eastern European bloc nations like Ukraine, $1.8 billion just isn't all that much money, within the sphere of the math of these sort of people. Now, for baby billionaire Sam Bankman-Fried, 30-year-old billionaire living in the Bahamas, yeah, that sounds like a hell of a lot of money. And for any of us individually, it sounds like a hell of a lot of money. But you're talking about the various entities involved in this are trading away in the order of hundreds of billions of dollars of U.S. taxpayer money across the ocean to illegitimate engagements like the Ukraine conflict, where we should have spent not nary a cent. Now, disgraced crypto king Sam Bankman-Fried has been arrested by authorities in the Bahamas. This article comes to us from the New York Post, by the way, from yesterday, where the SEC has charged him with defrauding investors to the tune of $1.8 billion. And I want you to keep that in mind, the SEC. There's something going on here that should be of interest to everyone. The 30-year-old was taken into custody Monday night after the Bahamian government received formal notification from the U.S. of the charges against him, according to the Office of Attorney General in the Bahamas. Damian Williams, the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, confirmed Bankman-Fried's arrest and said the indictment would be unsealed Tuesday. That's later today, ladies and gentlemen. Earlier this evening, Bahamian authorities arrested Samuel Bankman-Fried at the request of the U.S. government based on a sealed indictment filed by the SDNY, the Southern District of New York. Williams tweeted, "We expect to move to unseal the indictment in the morning and we'll have more to say at that time." The charges include wire fraud conspiracy, securities fraud conspiracy, and money laundering. The New York Times reported citing a person with knowledge of the matter. Jesus Christ. Name the source, please. Or a compelling reason not to name him. Disgraced former FTX co-founder Sam Bankman-Fried was arrested in the Bahamas Monday. That's a shot from Getty Images. "We allege that Sam Bankman-Fried built a house of cards on a foundation of deception while telling investors that it was one of the safest buildings in crypto." SEC Chair Gary Gensler, keep that name in mind because it's going to come back up, said in a statement, "The alleged fraud committed by Mr. Bankman-Fried is a clarion call to crypto platforms that they need to come into compliance with our laws." So, another thing happened. And I do not know. I do not have concrete certainty that this other thing that I'm about to share with you, remember the Gary Gensler and the SEC, before as we go into this, because NWO, New World Order, is trending on Twitter as a result of this article. And there is a reason, and that reason is careful control of information. That when you hear people talk about things like the New World Order, the World Economic Forum, the Great Reset, the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission, things of that nature, that it all sounds like a great deal of speculation. And in large part, there is a great deal of speculation. We managed to get our hands on little bits and dribs and drabs of evidence here and there without ever having any really concrete, exact evidence. You know, there was a meeting of the Bilderberg Group at this place at this time, but nobody could get in to see what happened. Nobody that went into the meeting is talking about what happened. But we have images on camera of specific known individuals entering the closed meetings. We get information where meetings happen, and then right after they happen, there will be an incident like the sudden and surprising arrest of Sam Bankman-Fried, which by all accounts was not going to happen, right? But then you see that there are these meetings, and it's a where there's smoke there's fire kind of thing. And the problem with conspiracies generally is that the larger the conspiracy, the harder it is to keep everything secret. But part of that speculation, like, everybody knows that Elon Musk is the wealthiest man on planet Earth. Yeah, sort of. But you've got Saudi princes, you've got Vladimir Putin, plenty of other entities who are actually worth a substantially larger sum of money across the calculation and tabulation of their individual holdings and properties, but they don't own those things, those resources, in the same way as a very public billionaire like Elon Musk does, right? You know, the net worth tabulation for somebody like, say, a Saudi prince includes the monetary value of properties where he's not the landowner, he's the ruling sovereign. And that complicates that metric. So at the top of all of these conspiracy chains, there are shady entities whose net values are very difficult to argue, articulate, or tabulate. And then we get this article from Fox News. Biden official hid info about meetings with George Soros, Hillary Clinton, and Nancy Pelosi from the public. SEC updates calendars from time to time, an agency spokesman tells Fox News Digital. Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman Gary Gensler scrubbed mention of a meeting with former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and key details of a meeting with billionaire Democrat donor George Soros from the public version of his calendar. Gensler's public calendar showed that he only had a staff meeting on August 7th, 2021, while his private calendar lists a meeting with Clinton, according to a Fox News digital review. Excuse me. And on August 20th, 2021, his public calendar lists a meeting with Soros, but hid the meeting's agenda, which his private calendar shows was to discuss a forthcoming Wall Street Journal op-ed the business magnate was planning to write. So we've got the SEC chairman right here getting busted for illicitly attempting to obfuscate his calendar, for trying to hide his official business. Now, that in and of itself is kind of a tricky piece of data. Yes, a public figure can have a private life. I'll refer you back to the Hillary Clinton emails, and she said, "Oh, well, that server was just about wedding plans for Chelsea and yoga schedules and things like that." Okay, cool. You're allowed to have a private life. But it turns out that server also contained important classified special access program information that was absolutely forbidden by law from existing outside of a secure compartmentalized facility. You broke the law. And you didn't just break the law you didn't just do something wrong, Hillary. You signed a very complex document that said, "I understand what it looks like to break this explicit set of laws covered under UCIT 18. And I promise that I will never break these specific laws, which I have been specifically briefed on and had these laws explained to me." And of course, to add insult to injury, Hillary's a lawyer. Right? It's not like somebody was explaining something to her that her credentials suggest she shouldn't be capable of understanding. This was explicitly in her wheelhouse. So when you look at something like the Securities and Exchange Commissioner is meeting with former Secretary of State, public official, who is also a former presidential candidate, who has also been a major monetary source for a major American political entity, the Democrat Party, and then also with Democrat donor George Soros. Soros is such a major source of funding for Democrat activities and the whole woke left agenda, that to consider that his meeting with the chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission would not be a matter of official operation for that SEC chair. Guys, unless you can show me video or documentation that they've been friends for a long time and got together to play golf or have cocktails and not discuss the future of the World Economic Forum, then I call bullshit. And it just so happens that just a few days after these public calendars are unredacted, I guess is the right word for this particular situation. It just so happens that after that goes down, then this Bankman-Fried kid finally gets arrested. I mean, Bankman-Fried, he screwed up. He's a crook. He cheated a bunch of people. Now, at the end of the day, what we're looking at is you're kind of seeing the sausage being made, but through a hazy, thick window. You know, there's some motion going on, and maybe you hear some pigs squeal as they're slaughtered, but you can't quite smell the blood. But you know it's there. And that's kind of why all of the big conspiracy theories as they're discussed, just here, let me unlock the phone for you guys. All the big conspiracy theories as they're discussed, they always live in this realm of speculation and vagary. Many of the important characters involved there, you've never heard their names, and you likely never will. That should frighten you. That should concern you. And you should make preparations for what will happen as their plans come to fruition. You will own nothing. You will eat the bugs. You will live in the pods. Unless you are prepared to feed yourself. Now, that said, I want to talk about something for just a moment that Cameron and I were talking about right before the show. This Bankman-Fried, Sam Bankman-Fried, he's been touted as being, he called himself the compassionate capitalist. And I want to just go ahead and put the lie to that sort of psychopathy. It's like if you guys remember the Democrat Party president, George W. Bush, who touted himself as a compassionate conservative. Oh, I'm sorry. Bankman-Fried's thing, the altruistic capitalist. And you go back to Democrat President George W. Bush, the compassionate conservative. Right? These bits of languages are bizarre contrivances. The objective is to suggest that the use of the word compassionate and conservative together constitutes an oxymoron, and that being compassionate is somehow different than being conservative, overtly suggesting that conservatism is not compassionate. Let me tell you what the opposite of conservatism entails. It entails communism. It entails socialism. It entails the ideologies of pure greed. It entails opposition to abolition. It entails voting against the Civil Rights Acts. It entails signing into law the Defense of Marriage Act, the illicit passage of the Obergefell decision. Right? It entails the opposite of conservatism, entails mutilating children within the context of this bizarre church of sexual ideology and gender ideology. To be compassionate and conservative go hand in hand. And then you've got this Friedman guy says that he's an altruistic capitalist, trying to suggest that he's something special, he's something different, because altruism and capitalism, when merged together, make for an oxymoron of sorts. Let me put the lie to that right now. The United States of America, the greatest capitalist production in the history of ever, manages more charitable spending, more foreign aid, than any other nation on the planet. So much so that number is more than almost any combination of other nations on the planet. Charitable spending, charitable giving, actual altruism by the United States. And hey, I'm a big advocate for ending all foreign aid. Right? If I were suddenly in the White House and had the ability to do one thing and one thing only right now, it would be to end all foreign aid and make all foreign aid recipients apply for specific needs-based foreign aid. I would shut that shit down. But here's the thing about altruism and capitalism. There is no such thing as an altruistic communist or socialist. Because you cannot give resources if you do not have resources. You can only steal them at gunpoint and then give them away. If you are stealing from other people against their will with the threat of violence in order to give money to another person, what you're doing is not altruism. right? And you'll hear it compared to Robin Hood, rob the rich to feed the poor. Y'all need to go back and get smart on Robin Hood. Robin Hood didn't rob the rich to feed the poor. Robin Hood declared war on a corrupt government that was taxing people. Robin Hood said, I don't want you taking money from these people by threat of force, and so I will stop you doing that. Oh, I was wondering why you hadn't called in yet. I bet you need the number there, don't you, Stryker? We got about 4 minutes left in the program. If you go ahead and call in, then I will try to take your call, and we'll see what we can do with you this morning, brother. So that was the last thing that I really wanted to hit, was the idea, this bizarre idea of things like altruism and conservatism, or altruism and capitalism, or compassion and conservatism being oxymoronic. That's just, those are psychotic distinctions. All right, I believe this is Stryker calling in. Let me see if I can get him connected. All right, bear with us just a second, Stryker. I got to get you hooked up to the Bluetooth there.
Sure thing.
All right, I think I've got you. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing out there in the nice wintry realm of Georgia?
Oh yeah, wintry. In fact, indeed, I will be wearing shorts and a Hawaiian shirt all day today. But that's just kind of how I roll. See if I can mix your input up a little higher. See what you got. Okay.
Yeah. Have I leveled out?
It's better.
All right.
I think we can hear you. And I'm not the right judge. I do this work, but the truth of the matter is, I'm deaf as a post, man. I've got these headphones turned up about as high as they'll go.
I hear you. One thing that a lot of folks are catching on to this now, and it's becoming much more common knowledge. All these nonprofits, you hustle, you create the nonprofit, put yourself on the board, and you draw a salary from it, and anyone could copy Bono, the Clinton Foundation, even the Trump organization. These nonprofits, you make your pay off that organization, but all the money put into it, is a quote-unquote write-off for these folks, and this way this money becomes dark money. Best example of dark money being funneled was Planned Parenthood sponsored Hillary Clinton running for Senate. She becomes a senator, then she becomes Secretary of State under Obama, and then she approves funding that, by my math, was over 10 times what they put into her pocket. So that's how they run the hustle. The biggest hustle is USAID is usually used to give money to these nonprofits and these non-government organizations. That's usually where Soros gets his money from, on top of his investments. So it's partly a matter of corruption, grift, and payola, and a hell of a lot of nepotism. But yeah, is there an organized mafia? There is, but there's factions in it. Right now, Elon Musk is battling one faction because he wants to be the one in control of all the centralized communications. If you have the communications, you have the information. If you have the information, you can manipulate the markets.
Right. And we saw that happen with Dogecoin. I like a lot of what Elon's done. I like a hell of a lot of what he's doing with Twitter. But if y'all remember, there was the Game Stonks event. Was that a year ago or 2 years ago? Anyway, at the same time, while the whole Game Stonks thing was going on, where GameStop, the video game retailer, just suddenly skyrocketed in value and then crashed back down pretty quickly. That was actually a function of meme warfare. That was a battle in meme warfare where people just conversationally on the internet using Reddit and Twitter intentionally artificially overinflated the value of a stock as they jumped on board. And the game was hold until we decide to fold. And that's what they did. And then all of a sudden these guys just jumped off of it at the same time. Well, around that same period, Elon was talking up Dogecoin in particular ways. I actually made a little money off of the Dogecoin spike and had fun with that. And as soon as it crashed way back down, it got down to like like 0.1 cents for a second there, and I bought, I think, $100 worth at that rate, and so that's already come back nicely. But that was another example of literally controlling the markets through the dissemination of information. And then the other thing, off of what you were just saying, Stryker, you mentioned how the hustle works. You set up your nonprofit, you get on the board, and then you draw. I almost said commission. You draw a salary from that. Another thing that people aren't aware of, another piece of that hustle, the way these NGOs and nonprofits work, the bigger the nonprofit, the closer it gets to the federal government level. What happens is at the largest nonprofits, a lot of the money that they take in comes from, not from charitable donations from individuals, but rather from grants and distributions from the federal, state, and local governments. So they'll get these gigantic grants, and I mean, millions and sometimes billions of dollars will be granted to these large charitable organizations. And then what they do with that money to satisfy the charitable giving part of the claim of their 501c3 charter is, rather than, let's say it's for homeless vets. So there will be a giant homeless vets organization, and rather than take the money that they get and go put homeless vets in homes, what they'll do is they'll find a bunch of smaller homeless vet charities. So it'll be like, oh, we're the national charity for homeless vets, and then they'll find one homeless vet charity in every state, and they'll distribute the cash down to them. So what they'll do is they'll get the grant, then they'll pay their overhead, pay the salaries that they have for their board and their staffers, and then once they've basically stripped away half of the grant into paying their expenses, then the other half gets divided up into 50 pieces, one to each smaller state chapter, and then at that level they take their piece, they strip away their expenses, and then they find smaller chapters. And it might not even be related, right? It may just be like, oh, well, we do homeless vet stuff. Well, here's a hungry vet stuff, and here's a Toys for Tots thing, and then they donate money down there. So basically, you start with this big wad of money, and it just goes down this trickle through several organizations, and at every level, large chunks of that taxpayer money are being stripped away to cover the expenses of those organizations, until it finally gets down to where you've got basically one good guy gets a buck and gives it to another sad, hungry guy. So the vast majority of that money just gets consumed by the bloated bureaucratic nature of these largely left-wing controlled 501c3s.
Correct. And the thing with that is the ones that they distribute and wash the money through are, of course, pre-approved to this is the nepotism that comes into play, whether it's through a Rotary Club, a Chamber of Commerce,
right,
or political party connection. They give it to the people they know, so it's all one big happy family, regardless of whether they vote left or right. At the end of the day, in the back room, they're all getting money and trading money. The other element, too, people aren't taught on their tax code. If they're aware of their tax codes, a lot of this stuff makes more sense. The 501c3, as we know, for example, limits the free speech of congregations. However, a 501c4, you can have some free speech because there's an entertainment budget in that, and that's how Turning Point gets away with having cheerleaders and celebrity speakers. Whereas a 501c3, like the Catholic Church, they're not going to speak out anymore because they want those tax breaks. So the trick with those ministers in their particular charity work, they could easily sell their ministry to a lower deacon for $1, buy it back, file a 1099. They don't want to do that, though. They like to grift themselves. So that's
right.
One of the ways to sort out the wolves among the sheep is who are these 501c3s that since Lyndon B. Johnson's put that into effect, who's willing to speak out against these other churches taking money and grifting off it versus actually doing work in the community? Because that's right there where the Patriots got their start in the organization of this country, were the Pilgrims and then the colonizers that came over. You had religious, refugees, and you had folks who wanted to colonize the land. and that's how the Mayflower came about. Now, the flip side, as you go further, American Revolution, the Black Robe Regiment, all the priests were like, hey, the crown is trying to regulate us because, the king wants to tax us, make up for the debt for the French Indian War, and assume that he's the sovereign. Well, the folks stood up against that, and including the ministries. And you've noticed they basically got these ministries to go along with the outbreak of the certain cough. And, I was very disappointed to see ministries that are supposed to be conservative, Orthodox ministries, for example. They have their congregations masked up, LDS missionaries masked up, etc.
Right.
They're not living their belief in faith healing or anything, but they're sure funneling that money to the places they want to go to. So it's if you're aware of how the tax codes and everything work, you actually can follow the trail and see who gets what type of break, where they put the money into, and how that gets put onto a lower level person and then to the intermediary street team levels, whether it's protesters that like to burn buildings in a mostly peaceful way, or folks who want to organize everyone for an alphabet purple hair community event. Well, here's the thing, is I was curious as to where the funding for the story time at all the libraries was coming from with those uniquely dressed individuals to keep your channel safe here on YouTube. And I was tracking some stuff. I ran a background check on one of the names I got from ABC News and so on of one of these characters. And then I see that the GOP is passing a resolution in the House of Representatives to stop their funding, which means it was the DNC funding that by inference.
Yep.
So, it's like these clowns, for lack of a better word, they didn't pop up at these libraries and at these children's bookstores until like around the time Trump got in office, almost as if they were a countermeasure against the conservative right. And the funny part is a lot of folks are still treating it as like it's a lesser issue. It's like, no, you don't really need to be having a bunch of toddlers exposed to that, because that's going to mess their heads up for a lifetime. It's like kids remember their first visit with Santa when they're bawling and crying because it's loud, it's noisy. I'm keeping it topical, by the way, because it's Christmas time. Red and white, big, bright colors, the noise of the mall. Now imagine you take away that, you put, someone dressed like Rita Repulsa from the Power Rangers in the kids' laps, and they're like, oh, there's nothing behind it. This is organic. The community really wants this.
Damn, you went to Rita Repulsa, buddy. You are reaching back into my childhood.
well, the Green Ranger, the White Ranger, he passed away last month, unfortunately, self-inflicted, because him and his wife were arguing over a divorce, I guess, or were going through hard times.
Yeah.
They were trying to get back together. And I'm just thinking to myself, is that the case, or is this another one of those Hollywood mystery incidents, and she's just giving them the cover story? Because
right.
We're having a lot of celebrities. Rod Stewart's 11-year-old kid recently had a issue with myocarditis, what have you, out there on the soccer field. And a lot of these other folks are having these issues. And it's just like,
Yeah, and Stryker, I hate to do it. I'm gonna cut you off there. We're wandering off topic, and on this show we're not too afraid to criticize the experimental vaccines. But I'm running over time, and I've got to get going. I appreciate you calling in this morning, brother, and please do feel free to call us just about any time. We love to hear from you, and. Yeah, so I'm going to let you go and wrap up the show. Sure. Damn, there was one more thing I wanted to say. Well, you were talking about, and I won't shy away from the language. You were talking about Drag Queen Story Hour, where which. If y'all watching this show, we've reported on Drag Queen Story Hour going as far as introducing a character called the Rainbow. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. The Rainbow Dildo Butt Monkey. It was literally a person in a costume, like a cartoon monkey, with a giant rubber appendage, huge fake breasts, and a huge bouncy rubber butt dancing around a public library for the sake of the children. You look at stuff like that, and I want you all to always remember this. And this is something that I keep forefront in my mind as I pay attention to what's going around in the world, because I have 4 kids, right? And for the sake of their lives, safety, happiness, and even mere comfort, all other lives are forfeit within the confines of my math. And I want you all to remember this. The left doesn't have children. They have your children. That's what a public school is about. And that's why it's the public libraries that are being targeted by these radicals. The left doesn't have children. They have your children. So I got to wrap this up. Thanks for watching, Sean. Thanks for calling in. Did you already hang up?
I'm still here.
Okay.
I was just going to say, let me know when you're on. I had your number added to my phone's memory.
Excellent.
I was just waiting for you to go ahead. So,
Excellent. Yeah, just and any time, man. If if we're on a topic, try to stay on topic. Feel free to drop a message in the live chat and say, "Hey, can I call in?" Or if you think it's not going to blow us up too bad, just call on in while we're live, and we'd love to hear from you. For those of you watching now, if you want to, I'll stay here for just another second and I'll give you just a minute to take down that number. In fact, I'll go ahead and type it in the chat. The number is 678-632-5751. And y'all save that to your phones. Feel free to call in when we're doing the show. If you call in while we're not live, I don't answer that phone. Mostly because it's here on the desk and I'm not. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Sean, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Thanks for calling in, brother. Take care.
Yep, you too. Take care.
And for the rest of you, thanks for tuning in. We love you, and we'll see you tomorrow.